Hey everybody, today I'm taking a look at Caesar's Empire, which is a board game released in 2022. This one takes 30 to 60 minutes to play and accommodates 2 to 5 players. Before I get started on my review of Caesar's Empire, I want to give a shout out to the show sponsor and the place where I picked up my copy of Caesar's Empire, KIENDA.co.uk, who are my go-to online retailer here, and if you use my link in the show notes or the QR code, then you can get 5% off your first order. Okay, so after setup, the game is going to look somewhat like this. Now, bear in mind that this board is double-sided, so this is the 2 to 3 player map, but on the reverse side we have the 4 to 5 player map, which has more cities and more routes. But you can see here we have this map of Europe and the surrounding areas, and we have these pre-allocated spaces where these larger tokens go. So you can see here these match perfectly, and there's a bunch of different colors and shapes of those, but completely randomly we have distributed out these smaller tokens which will score you points based on how many you collect of different types and of the same type. Now around the edge we have the score track, and the player's personal supply is going to look like this. We have a bunch of these plastic pieces which shows which roads you are controlling, and your personal player board is going to look like this, which is purely a little graph to show which items you've collected and to monitor your scoring at the game's end. So the game is going to keep on going on until every single one of these cities has been claimed, and then the player at the end of the game, once the in-game points and end-game points have been calculated, will be the winner. But how does the game actually work? So the turn structure in this game could not be more simple, where all you're going to do is you are going to claim a route connecting to a new unclaimed city, bearing in mind that you can start from Rome, but from then on you can start from claimed cities, and we'll talk about how that works. So let's just say as an opening move, the yellow player chose to go here like so. So you're going to put your piece on the road, and then depending on the city you've collected or just touched, you're going to take the 2 matching tokens. So these ones here are going to give you points at the end of the game. Now bear in mind that if I was to collect another one of these blue shields, that only my highest score or highest point valued one will score. So at the moment it's going to be 2, but say I collected this 4 valued one, my highest points would now be 4, so therefore I'm scoring 4 for the blues. Now once I've done that, I'm going to put my token onto my player board here like so, and this is going to monitor some additional points at the end of the game. So for all the different types I collect, I'm going to get more and more points based on this scale, but also I'm incentivized to get the same types, because if I do, I'm potentially going to get 2, 10 or a massive 20 points if I get 4 of the same. And once you've chosen your route and taken the tokens from the city that you've just reached, you are going to trace your route back from the city back to Rome and score a point for every road occupied by you. So in this case, it's a very simple one where the yellow player is going to get 1 point. But we'll see how this develops as the game goes on through this next example. Okay, so I've advanced the game a couple of turns here just to show you a bigger example of how the game scoring can work and change as the game goes on. So let's say it's gone back to the yellow player and they've decided to continue this route that the players have been building off by going to this yellow city. Now you can see here that some routes are actually made up of 2 roads where they're going to put 2 of their pieces like so, and as normal, when they reach the next spot, they're going to take the corresponding tokens. And you can also see that some of these tokens have these kind of coin symbols on them. So normally, let's imagine that this is just a standard route. They would be getting 1, 2, 3 points for yellow. The blue is going to get 1 point because you're going to trace that route back, and the red is going to get 1 point as well. However, if you take a route with a coin on it, all those points are going to be doubled. So essentially yellow will be getting 6 points here, the blue will be getting 2 points, and the red player will also be getting 2 points. And much like the other items, the coins score on a sliding scale as well, based on this independent track here. And something that's important to mention is that as soon as one of these routes have been established, you always trace the route back the shortest direction as possible. So you can really use that to your advantage to cut out other players from scoring points and to just use your routes exclusively as long as you track back to Rome. And if there's a joint amount, like in this example, you have 4 routes here and you also have 4 routes in this direction, then the player who claimed the city gets to choose which route to take, which of course they're going to select the route that benefits them the most. And that is essentially how the game works. You're going to keep on going in round robin fashion until all of the cities have been claimed. And then at the end of the game, you're going to calculate all the in-game points, add them to your tallies from your collected items, your duplicates, your coins, and your highest value token of each colour. Okay, so let's share some thoughts on Caesar's Empire. So you can probably tell from the very fast rules overview there that this game could not be more simple. And I do say that a lot, but I suppose it's never been more relevant than to this game because there are essentially a couple of rules and you're good to go. You know, this is a 1-minute rules explanation. Just create a route starting from Rome or starting from an already claimed city, take the tokens and then divide the points out accordingly. However, within that very simple framework, there are a ton of nuances and things you need to consider. There are long-term decisions, there are short-term decisions. You know, long-term you could be having an assessment of the board and thinking, well, I really want to keep on getting the same type of symbols because I'm going to get those massive 20 points if I get all 4 of them. Therefore, I might want to head in this direction and try to just aim for that. At the same time, you might be having a kind of a dominant route where nobody else is really kind of tampering with you. Therefore, if you keep on building on the same route, you can keep getting those quick points grabs by by scoring that route again and again and again. And especially if there are coins connected to that route, that's going to be double points for you. So that's one route you can do. But however, I do love the fact that the game designers have thought about that and said, yeah, if you want to take that strategy, you are going to be hurt in another kind of field of the game because you're probably going to be in a region that has all the same coloured tokens. And that's going to be quite a strong way to score. If you do diversify these larger tokens and get the higher valued ones of each type, that's a lot of points on the table there. Whereas again, if you're completely tunnel visioned on just exploiting your route, you're probably going to be keep on collecting the same colour and only going to squeeze a couple of points out of that. However, it might be worth it because they've got tokens you haven't got yet, or duplicates of the same tokens, or as I mentioned, the coin tokens. And on top of that, there are other things to think about as well, based on the standings of the player order, because inevitably you are going to start tampering with each other's routes by adding on to previous existing ones, where you've got to think up what is the net gain here. Yes, I'm going to give my opponent quite a few points if I build this route, but it might be worth it for me because it's a high points token or it's a token that I haven't got yet. And you have to think about the fact that you can bypass people by creating new pathways, and consider that every single placement you make is always going to take the fastest route back to Rome. Meaning that if somebody has really started to run away with a pathway, you can kind of sabotage that by creating a little through path or a little rabbit run and thinking that, yes, they are going to completely nullify a bunch of their point scoring because they're going to have to take the fastest path and therefore not going to be able to exploit that huge route again. I love the degree of player interaction in this game. You really do have to think about what your opponents are doing just as much as helping yourself. Like, for example, if I was the yellow player, I might want to jump on this route here to get a new symbol I haven't got yet and this huge 5-point value token here. But if it's the red player's turn, they're going to piggyback off that action and therefore jump in here and get the double point scoring all the way back to Rome. So you really do have to think about the opportunities you're leaving to your opponents and kind of have this game of chicken where you want your opponents to make a move so that you can capitalize on their efforts. But again, all about considering who's going to get the net gain here, short-term sacrifices for long-term point scoring. I love how creative and sneaky you can be with some of these plays that can capture your opponents off guard, but in the same vein, you can be caught off guard. Like, for example, somebody might be thinking, yeah, the blue player is probably going to grab this route here, but I'm going to get some points because it's going to trace back through all our pieces. But then all of a sudden they come up with a move like this, where they just sneak in here and completely dominate that route like so, because again, they're not breaking any rules here, they're not passing through any claimed city, and they are tracing back to Rome there. So therefore, they're going to get the full dividends from this coin here. So yeah, very clever and creative plays to be made here. So if you can't tell, I really do feel like the rules overhead to depth ratio of this game is off the charts, probably one of the strongest examples I've seen in many years. And those games always shine for me and stay around in my collection for a long, long time. So full props in that respect. And to continue with the praise, this game does take around 30 minutes to play. The box itself does say 30 to 60 minutes, which I suppose if you are really dragging your heels at a 5-player count, it could stretch to closer towards that 60 minutes. But to be honest, I think that is overestimating how long this game takes. We played a 3-player game the other day in about 15 to 20 minutes. And again, considering those decisions you have to make in that time, I think that is an outstanding ratio. You're always engaged. Turns are lightning quick, and again, even if it's not your turn, you could be scoring a lot of points from your previous efforts. The game also scales remarkably well. I love the 3-player mode. I mean, I had a little bit of criticism about it at this player count, but I would completely disregard that. I think it's a great 3-player game. 4 players and 5 players, exactly the same. The only player count I wouldn't really think about playing this at is 2 players, because it's a little bit too zero-sum, and it's obvious who's going to benefit what and who's going to get the net gain. But as I said, when you start throwing in that wild card and that 3rd, 4th or 5th player, then you can actually, think outside the box and think, yeah, someone else is going to get more than me, but I'm still going to make up ground from the leader. Whereas in a 2-player game, that part of the game is going to be lost. The production for this game is fantastic, maybe even a little overproduced, because, these little road markers, they could have been anything but these like miniatures or these plastic pieces that represent these kind of Roman legions. They look fantastic on the table, they really pop, and it's nice that you can clearly differentiate at a glance whose pieces are on the board and who's going to be on that route, so you can very quickly divide up those points. But they could have been anything else. They could have been just wooden strips or anything. It doesn't really matter. But I do like the fact that it's a good game and the production goes well with that. Everything else is perfectly fine as well. All the actual wooden tokens, they're good quality. The board is nice and bright. I actually love the artwork with kind of Caesar's shadow looming over the map here. It's a lot of character, like cartoony vibe, but it's still really well done. And I'm happy with the production. The boards are nice and clearly laid out, so no criticism at all. Again, the only thing is that you're going to have to pay a bit of a premium for a 30 to 60 minute game, just because of the plastic miniatures. Okay, so let's share some final thoughts on Caesar's Empire. And I probably wasn't very discreet there, but I don't care. I think this game is absolutely phenomenal. This is hands down my favourite game of 2022 so far, bearing in mind that I haven't played a lot of them yet because a lot of the Essen releases haven't hit UK shores yet. But despite that, I'd be very surprised if this game doesn't meet my top 5 of the year. And considering this is a much lighter affair than my usual game of choice, I think that is the highest praise I can give. It's very difficult for a game this streamlined and simple to reach that level of pedigree when it's going to stand shoulder to shoulder with some of the more crunchy, meatier Euros. But I just think the decision space here is great. It's so accessible. You can play it in 30 minutes. It's got some awesome little tactical and strategic decisions to be made here. I love the player interaction. It's just a joy to play. It's just a simple set collection game, but it has layers and depth. And I love the fact that you can teach this in a minute, get to the table, and even play a couple of games within the hour. So yeah, I'm so impressed. It's, I said it's going to be in my top 5 of the year. I would be surprised if this isn't my number 1, pleasant surprise of the year. It really did come out of nowhere. I am kind of aware that this game is a reprint from a game from a couple of years ago, which I'm really surprised that one bypassed me, because again, this ticks a lot of boxes for me, and these are the staples of my collection, where I can play this with advanced Eurogamers, I could play this with complete non-gamers, and we're all going to have a great time because it just has all those qualities. So yeah, I cannot say enough good words about this one. It's an unassuming game. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised about my thoughts here, because again, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles, it doesn't have complexity or anything like that, but the gameplay is fantastic. Therefore, this is going to get my my highest recommendation. I highly recommend you pick this one up if you do like that. Again, that School of Knizia design, less is more. So that is Caesar's Empire, an utterly brilliant game.